Hey Andrew, I thought I would just make a video review of your projects as opposed to trying to type all this stuff, and that way you could kind of see the process. And the newest file that you sent me was not working. I think when you tried to move maybe the flute up, it didn't make it up an octave, and so there's a lot of parts in there that are not in the right key. So I'm gonna go back to the previous version of your project 3 and discuss the things that we've talked about, but put it into this video form so you can see me work it and then rewatch it if you want to kind of see what I'm doing. So let's get into it. I'm going to start with the flute. So let me go to your session. Okay, so here's your session, and let's look at the flute track. I'm going to double click here, open up the editor, and the initial thing was getting it in the right octave, right? So all we're going to do is just grab these notes. And by the way, you can make things bigger here. You can make them bigger here. And then if I right click, I can go down to transpose and just set it +1. It's possible to do semitones as well, but I'm just going to hit +1 and then hit OK, and that's it. It moves everything up, doesn't move anything on the timeline, accurate, very simple. So now we should be in the correct octave. And there's a wrong note coming up, I think. Right there, that E natural should be an E flat, because we're in C minor. All right. So that's the flute part. Pretty easy. I'm going to go to your mixer view, and I want to talk about the panning of these strings. I understand that you're using, the stock stuff. When I hear this from the beginning, understanding that the cello kind of has the melody, there's a couple things going on. Balance-wise, I still think the cello needs more love. I'm going to give it a little bit more volume. I'm going to try to balance out these parts. But the main thing was just spreading the strings out. So I'm going to take violins 1 and push them pretty far to the left. Violin 2 over to the left. Viola somewhere kind of near the center. Cello a little bit more center because it is the melody, it is the solo. So anything that's in the center channel comes out of both speakers, which means it sort of automatically has a little bit more level. And then the bass I'm going to shoot a little bit more to the right, because that's really where it would be on stage if you're looking at the orchestra from the audience perspective. So now I've spread the strings out in the stereo image, and when I play it, you'll hear automatically that things sound more distinct. You can hear the parts. And because I give the cello just a little bit more juice, you should hear that better too. So I'm listening, but I'm also looking with my eyes a little bit. And something that people may not realize is that the VUs, the volume meters, reflect how much energy or how much sound is coming out on playback. So when I look at the violin 1, violin 2, viola, if this is up here, look at the VUs. Watch. I can hear it and I can see it. So I'm balancing with my ears and a little bit with my eyes. I mean, you don't really want to mix with your eyes, but I could tell that the viola was kind of hot. So I'm pulling that back. It's also a lower range, and sometimes things that are more meaty can kind of stick out. So just balancing the strings, getting a little bit more of a stereo spread, that was my first step. Second thing I want to do is I want to create a bus for all these strings. I'm going to shift click, right click, add bus for selected channels. I'm going to call this strings, or something like strings. Okay. So now I've got a string bus, meaning that all of those individual tracks are going to come out of this one bus. Right there. I can mute them all at once. And I can also then EQ and or send them to, let's say, a reverb, which is exactly what I'm going to do. So on the strings bus, I'm going to drop in an EQ just to soften that top end because it's a little bit gritty. It's a little bit strident. So I'm going to find the frequency I don't like, and then I'm going to cut it. Here we go. Do you hear that sort of like buzzsaw, gritty, angry bees in a beehive kind of sound? I don't like that. I'm going to get rid of that. So let's soften that top end. And then I'm going to just take a little bit of the muddiness out generally of the string sound. I'm going to make it sound a little bit farther away, a little bit crisper, cleaner, not quite as muddy. There's before. There's after. So we're just softening the strings, making them sound a little bit cleaner. Okay. Next thing I want to do is get some ambience onto this track. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to create an effects channel. We're going to call it Verb. And I'm going to plug in a reverb. Like, it doesn't really matter. Mix verb. And then I'm going to go to the settings and I'm going to look for a hall. Here's a large hall. Okay. Now, way this works is we now have this reverb bus. I'm going to color the strings a different color. Let's go purple. So now on this verb bus, anything that I send to the bus is going to go through the reverb, and I can then control how much of it we hear by turning this fader up and down. So what I'm going to do is go to the strings bus. Instead of doing it from each individual string instrument, which you could do, I'm just going to go to the strings bus and I'm going to send it over to verb. So it's going from there to there. And so now, as I pull this up and down, you'll hear the reverb being applied to the strings. Nice. So it's giving it a sense of space. It's helping to blend the sounds together a little bit. And yeah, I think that sounds better than where we started, which is always a goal. It's just to make things better. Okay, cool. Let's go and do the bass, the contrabass now. I just want to change the sound. And there is a pizzicato. I think it calls for pizzicato, which is plucking the string. And there is one in here. So if we go to the string kits and look for pizzicato section or pizzicato strings, I don't know which one's going to sound better. Let's try section. I'm going to solo the bass here. It's loading, loading, loading. Come on, you can do it. My laptop is not as powerful. There we go. Okay, let me solo the bass here. Can I do that? Yeah. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. And then I think we talked a little bit about the velocity stuff, if you remember. In class we did this, right? We found some notes that could use a little more oomph. Actually, I think with this patch, which is called, what's it called? It's called pizzicato section. It's better. Like, it sounds pretty even. So I'm liking this. Okay, the bassoon needs some haul, so I'm going to send it to the reverb, just like this. It's funny how that second note's speaking a lot, isn't it? So it's going to back off on the second note a little bit here in the velocity. And the other thing I want to do is I want to make these notes a little bit longer, I think. Let me hear it. It's okay. Maybe here. Yeah, so what happens in MIDI is that if the note lengths are exactly sort of quantized, I see some overlap. It creates a sort of like it doesn't sound very much like a wind instrument where they would blow a continuous stream of air. So I'm just going to take this part in particular, and I'm going to make all the note lengths a little bit longer so that they overlap. And this is going to create more of a legato articulation. And again, I had to turn off the grid mode to do this, right? So we're not in grid mode. Even more. What happens? Let's see. I'll try a little bit more. With everybody. Same thing in the flute. The note lengths, I think, just need, they look almost quantized to me. And so the final thing I'll say is that, you know, I think you're dragging the stuff in with the mouse as opposed to playing it in. And when you do that, not only are the note lengths maybe not what they should be, but also the velocities tend to be too steady. If you keep drawing notes, it's always going to be the same velocity one after another. When you play it, you tend to put some of your body weight into it. And I mean, I see a little bit of variation in the velocity, but I think when you play things in, even if it's just one bar at a time, like just record one bar and record the next bar, then the next, you play it with feel, which translates even through a MIDI instrument, and it sounds more natural. So let me just hear all of this together. Yeah, it's already coming to life for me. So I hope this was helpful. These are the things that I would have done sort of immediately just to try to make it a little bit better. And I hope this feedback was helpful for you. You did a great job. Keep it up. Cool, man. Take care.